Talk Show. Recorded live.
Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you are listening to the VMware Communities Roundtable podcast. This is podcast number 577. My name is Eric Nielsen, and with me today, I have my alternate co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, October 20th, 2021. Matt Lungeth is out at a customer in Ohio, United States, so we will miss him today. But Corey, glad you're here. What's happening in Utah?
Tons of snow. You know, we got almost a foot of snow up in our neighborhood in a 24-hour period. We went from, 70-degree weather down to, low 30s. So
very cold, very cold. Well, on the show today, we're going to be talking about Skyline. We have Josh Lory here. Josh Lory is Senior Director of Product Marketing. I think he manages the Skyline product line. So we'll talk to Josh. So Josh, thanks for coming on the show. We'll get to you in a little bit, but just say hello to everybody that happens to be watching us on YouTube.
It's a pleasure to be back. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you back. It's been 2 years. That's crazy. We'll talk a little bit about the episode that you were on last year. I think it was episode 494. So if you go to vmw.re/pod, you can go look through the episodes. 494. Josh came in and talked to us 2 years ago. So if you want to compare what's new, it should be fun.
A little Marty McFly, Back to the Future, yeah.
Back to the Future. That's right. All right. So Color of the Bay. We'll get to the Color Bay. Hey, winter has come to California. It has been cold, 58, 55. I know that's not cold for a lot of people, but for us in California, it's like, oh, we have to put on sweaters, right? And it's also rained here. So we haven't had rain in over like about a year. I think about a year ago we had rain and we finally got some rain. So everybody's a little bit happy about that. For the fire season will go away. We got a storm coming in this weekend. And the Color of the Bay is dark green and choppy. It is cold, cloudy, and super windy. And winter has kind of went from summer to winter that quickly in California. So here we go. All right. So Corey, let's get to some news. I know there's some vExpert stuff going on. Why don't we do that? And then we'll get to the show.
Yeah, so I've got a couple announcements. So we've got a webinar on security coming up. I just sent out the invite. That's going to be happening on November 3rd, and that's on detecting next breach and how to win the war with NSX and NDR. And then the vExpert Avi subprogram has a session on Avi and Kubernetes, and that's going to be held on October 27th. And then I just announced about 5 minutes ago, should be in everybody's inbox, that I'm doing a monthly content roll-up on the vExpert blogs, which is going to be via blogs.vmware.com/vExpert. And what I'm doing is I'm collecting the vExpert's content, whether it's VMworld sessions, podcast topics, blogs, any type of content you're generating, and I'm going to do a content roll-up on the vExpert blog, and we'll start doing that monthly. And the last announcement I have is vExpert applications will be opening December 6th. And so we'll be closing those applications on January 14th, and the awards will be announced February 18th. The reason why I bring it up now a little bit early is so if you're on the fence of applying, not really sure if you should, not really sure if you've done enough in 2021, reach out to a vExpert Pro and have that discussion now, so you can get kind of prepped for that application period. You can find the vExpert Pros at vexpert.vmware.com and then click on the directory. I think it's vexpert.vmware.com/directory, and you can pick a pro in your country and reach out to them. I think they've got their LinkedIn, their email address, several ways to contact them, and they're great to work with.
All right. Very nice. I know that we've been talking to the cloud marketing team to talk about multi-cloud, looking at popular sessions that happen at VMworld for multi-cloud. And one of the things we're going to do is reach out to the experts and work with you, Corey, around looking for interesting articles around multi-cloud, right? So doing some paid promotion for blog articles on multi-cloud. So that should be fun. We're looking at what we can do with the experts in Q4 to kind of promote the multi-cloud and SaaS kind of product lines that run in multi-cloud. So stay tuned.
Excellent.
For that.
Yeah, always looking forward to it. Yeah, great.
When we were talking to people about like, what are we looking at? What are we trying to do? SaaS services. We have Josh. She's going to talk to us about Skyline and SaaS, I'm sure. And we're looking at what are the SaaS offerings and how do the community members engage with, promoting and distributing information about the SaaS services around multi-cloud. So we're going to try to work with you guys around doing that. So some of our tasks that we're going to be working on in Q4 through the holiday season. So it should be fun. All right, let's get to our main show today, which is Skyline. We haven't heard from the Skyline guys and Josh for, I think, 2 years back in 2019. So Josh, welcome to the show. Why don't you do a little bit of who you are, how long you've been at VMware, and what's your career arc look like, and then we'll get into some stuff around what's changed in the last 2 years.
Yeah, thanks so much, Eric. And it's great to be back on after 2 years. We've been very busy. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Lory. Been at VMware for 10 years. Actually, in August, I clicked over a decade, which is just crazy. It's been a wild ride. I've done a little bit of everything at VMware. I started as an SE in the Northeast, managing partners like Accenture and CSC. I moved into a global alliance role, and I was basically their CTO, field CTO, building partner-based solutions and offerings with CSC, now DXC, and also Accenture. Also worked a little bit with Atos in EMEA. And then I got a chance to look at how our SDDC platform was being built in engineering. So I moved from New York to California out in Palo Alto, and I led a solutions architecture team, engineering team. And we basically wrote the playbook on how do you operate the SDDC in the very early days. We also put together a certification program for VMware Validated Designs and partners that wanted to go offer that to their customers. And we got 400 customers, 400 very large customers within like a year and a half to go adopt that. And VVD, VCF have all kind of come together and is becoming that foundational item for multi-cloud, which is great to see, right? So the lineage there. After we started really designing our products into solutions, integrated platforms, we started to notice another shift, which was how are we going to go manage and support all of this as VMware? And that's when Pat and Michael Dell came down and said, hey, we have a lot of data coming out of our products. We're using it internally to understand which features are being used. What are we going to go develop next? But how do we make that data strategic back to customers? And that's where, at VMworld 2017, we introduced Skyline as a service. Pat and Michael Dell introduced that on stage to say, hey, we're going to help customers avoid issues before they occur with this data. And that service is going to be available to all customers that have support. And that is the lineage. That is where this all started. It was a homegrown incubated service. And now we have over 12,000 customers, the majority of which it's their first cloud SaaS service at VMware. So dipping their toes into SaaS, but also helping them get proactive around their their environments that they're managing.
Right. So the solutions, the SaaS solution that they're acquiring is Skyline. Skyline is managing on-prem services, right? They can also manage, I assume, cloud-based services. But this is what I'd call a classic SaaS, a true SaaS product offering from VMware, which is Skyline, a managed service to get you data delivered to you, looking at all the cloud and on-prem, usage of VMs, right? So that's
today we support obviously the core portfolio of on-premise and partner-managed clouds, which is vSphere, vSAN, NSX, both versions, T and V. We support VROps. We support VCF SDDC Manager. We added VRA just recently, and we also support Horizon VDI environments. So that core portfolio where we have, hundreds of thousands of customers using the vSphere based products, that's where we help customers avoid issues. That's where the majority of the issues are found. And we can circumnavigate that. Now on cloud services, where that gets interesting is when you start to use cloud services like VMC from VMware, now VMware is managing that environment. And so this is kind of leading into the future of Skyline. We are looking at what are the use cases that Skyline can play across hybrid cloud environments and multi-cloud environments to make that experience much more smooth, proactive, predictive, because there's a lot of infrastructure in between those connections between your on-premise environment and your cloud environments. And then there's a lot of dependencies from a customer SRE perspective that needs to happen for things like VMC to upgrade, right, to the latest version? And how do you notify customers about upcoming upgrades and the dependencies in the VMC environment? And so we're looking at use cases around that as well. So more to come. Look forward to next year on how Skyline is going to play into the multi-cloud space and even the modern application space, because now that's all coming together, right?
Right. So I got to unpack a little bit of what you just said, because you said a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So first, like when I use SaaS services, like I use this thing called Social Studio from Salesforce, right? And it gives me data, and it gives me projections of what's actually happening with social activities. We can measure, we can monitor. Then we have, different SaaS tools that allow us to do visualization. What are some of the key value props that you see for the Skyline SaaS service? You must have like 2 or 3 of them off the top of your mind that you're seeing these 12,000 customers actually resonate with. What would you say the top couple of those are?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, we're investing most of our time and energy into the mission of proactive issue avoidance. This is, customers, whether they like it or not, they've probably hit an issue with VMware, had to log an SR, and work with our teams to get that part of the infrastructure back up and running. Work through performance issues, security vulnerabilities, configuration things, all of those items, and we want to circumnavigate that whole experience. We want to give you personalized data for your environment that says, hey, we know there's a known issue out there. We know that other customers hit that issue. It was very painful. And here is the data to what that issue is, where it is in your environment, exactly where it is in that environment, and then what to do about it based on your environment. What is the remediation steps? And so that is proactive issue avoidance 101 for us. And that's why customers, really want to use Skyline.
Could you give me a couple examples of where either I've seen too much VM saturation, too much usage, bad pipelines to storage units? What do those kind of cases look like? I'm making those up, but what would you typically discover when looking at operational data?
Yeah, I mean, so our proactive findings are based on bugs in the software, right? Okay. They're based on configuration best practices and issues that we've seen. So, hey, your NTP is not set up consistently across all your hosts, or jumbo frames is not set correctly for your environment. These are things that seem very simple, yet are very effective. And if you don't have them set correctly, it can take down your environment. Security vulnerabilities, so critical CVEs that are 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. Right. We codify that in our database, and we check across over 750 things. Okay. In customers' environment. So there's a whole slew, right? I mean, when the whole SD card vulnerability came out, this was a very big security vulnerability that that everybody found out about, went public. We had that codified within the next 24 hours for customers. Okay. And so
this is more on the lines of install, configuration, and management of all the configuration versions of software, whatever, all the solutions. It's not really looking at data speeds and feeds operationally as much as it is looking at your configuration and how you've got everything installed and configured and versioned to look for gotchas that we could red flag before they become a problem.
Yeah, and there are things like disk space running out on your NSXT controller. Right. Things that, capacity on some of these different components within the SDDC stack that, you could check for in other tools and monitor, performance and capacity and things like that. But Skyline's just going to give you the answer. Hey, you're almost running out of space. Go do this. You don't have to go troubleshoot after the fact. Right. It's just going to package all that information up for you in a personalized way and then let you go do the action. The other use case,
they are looking at consumables then, right? Disk space and maybe memory utilization stuff to give you kind of like a flag of whether you're going to have problems down the road.
That's right. And then the other use case is on the support experience side, which is, we know when there is a reactive support case, an SR filed, customers need help getting their logs over to support, right? That's why they pay for support. They need help to root cause and then get an answer after an issue occurs. And so we have a feature called Log Assist within Skyline, very popular with customers, again, on the reactive support experience that basically automatically packages up all the logs from the products I mentioned that we support and sends them to support. And so customers don't have to get off the phone, say, "Oh God, I have to go get all these logs from 8 hosts or 2 vCenters and then all these NSX managers." It just click of a button, 1, 2, 3. Within 60 seconds, you can push those logs to us automatically, or the TSC who's helping you, and even your TAM, if you have a TAM, can request those logs from you, right? So you don't have to do anything. All you have to do is go into Skyline and approve that request. We also have a feature called auto approve. So if you know the TAM or the TSC that's always helping you, they can just go in there and start pulling logs and helping you right away, right? So that's a very popular feature. So there's use cases in that proactive issue avoidance space, and then there's use cases in that reactive support experience space where you're going to be actually interacting with a human being, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. People in the chat, and myself included, are going like, yeah, that first, when you do have a problem and you do have to call, you're in for an hour or two going and finding the necessary data to give to them before they're going to be able to do anything for you, right? Because
and the other thing is just general visibility, Eric, right? So normally when you call into a company and they don't have your information, every single person that you speak to, you have to say, start from the beginning. Here's how I have everything configured. Here's the versions that I have. Here's how I architected the thing, right? And so now they have all that information, right? If you have Skyline, they know all of that. They can just start working on your problem right away. So it really reduces that time to resolution. That is what we measure on the back end for these cases, right? Especially in those areas of uploading logs and just getting up to speed on the environment. So that's super helpful as well. And then for customers that have Success 360, our new Success offering, they have a whole dedicated proactive support team that's helping them look at all of the different findings that they have, prioritizing those findings based on what's most important to them as a customer, based on their maintenance windows, what can they accomplish in the next quarter, and then walking them through those steps. And so for those customers, they have an additional kind of tailored service around Skyline, which we're going to be talking about as we get into the Advisor Pro announcement that we just made at VMworld.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I feel like, just one more antidote where it's kind of like when you go to the doctor's office and you're sick and the first thing to do is take your blood pressure and, put you on the scale and weigh you, and all you are is sick and you want a solution, but you have to go through that data collection before they do anything. Right. So this just takes that out of the equation. And do you guys provide this like as part of a support contract? When people sign up for support, you check a box and say, I want Skyline as well. And there's a cost to it, but then I get that. Is that how you bundle this stuff to get people to, use it?
Great question. The availability of Skyline Advisor, which is, our SaaS component of the Skyline family, and I'll talk about the other components of the family here in a moment. That availability of Skyline Advisor is for all production support customers, which is the largest tranche of support customers at VMware. Premier support, which is, getting replaced by Success 360 in lieu of Success 360. And then Success 360 customers, as well as our universal subscription, because universal subscription, so things like vRealize Cloud Universal and VMware Cloud Universal, they actually package production support within that one subscription fee. And so thus Skyline Advisor is included. Now, for customers that are using Skyline Health within the vSphere client, so this is baked into the vSphere product itself, for vSphere and for vSAN, that's available to all customers. You don't even have to have a support contract. You just turn that on. You turn on CEIP within vCenter, and you have those proactive findings for vSphere and vSAN only in there, right? We also have a component called Skyline Health Diagnostics, which is a reactive troubleshooting tool. Essentially, an issue happens, you'll upload your logs to an appliance called Skyline Health Diagnostics appliance, and then it'll spit out, here's the root cause based on that log information that you just sent to us of that issue. And so that is also available to all customers, without even a support contract at no additional charge. If you want the Uber Skyline Advisor functionality, the SaaS service, which does across all the products that I mentioned, all the solution, proactive issue avoidance, the integration with support. We also have integrations with our vRealize products now, to do kind of an integrated management and support use case, which I'll talk about too. That is, available to production support, Premier support, Success 360, and our universal customers. Does that make sense?
All right, so let me let's just I'll say what I wrote down here just to recover it again. Yeah, if you have a support contract, you can get it through production. If you have production support,
Yep.
Premier, which also will turn into Success 360. You got that covers it. And then of course, Universal, if you buy the Universal license, you're going to get Skyline as well there. And then there is the free version, which is if you've got vSphere, you can use Skyline in a limited capacity to kind of check things and give you that free option. So I can't imagine you can't avoid this now, right? Like it's just
it's a ubiquitous service, right, across any sort of vSphere platform that you're managing. And if you have those multiple products, obviously you're going to want to use the SaaS service, Skyline Advisor, to cover everything, right? And we're updating the Skyline Advisor SaaS service every month with new intelligence. So we're adding 30 to 70 new findings in there, based on trending support issues, escalations, bugs that we see, security vulnerabilities, configuration best practices. So that updates every month, whereas vSphere, as updates every year.
Every year, right, exactly.
Yeah, so just kind of, but you have a capability no matter where you are as a VMware customer, like a basic support customer.
Yeah, this makes sense because, as new Intel chips come out, new hardware comes out, if you get those monthly updates, you're going to probably get support for configuration options for whatever new gear happens to be down the pike. So it's kind of like a good way of keeping everything up to date, knowing things. And so there you go. I think I lost Josh here. Device not connected. Interesting. I don't know what happened to Josh. We'll give Josh a few seconds to get back, but I would say that that's particularly interesting that it is now everywhere. It's ubiquitous, and there we go. We have him back, no problem. So yeah, I just covered the ubiquitous nature of Skyline again. So Josh, thanks for taking me through that, and I can see that you have now joined back the stream. Let's see if you can hear me.
Sorry about that, Eric. I had a little bit of a hit on my end.
That's fine. I just did a cover. I just reviewed the options again. It is ubiquitous for sure. And I think we can transition now to what did we announce with Skyline at VMworld this year?
Yeah, absolutely. So Skyline's been in existence for 3+ years now, since VMworld 2017. We've had over 12,000 customers, come onto the service, which is awesome. We this year announced Skyline Advisor Pro, which is essentially the next level of proactive intelligence from VMware. It's a big upgrade for Skyline Advisor. And what's beautiful thing about it, it is faster, it's smarter, and it's simpler to use, right? So those are the three things that I'm going to cover here. I'll go into each one of those, and then I'm going to go into how you can actually get it as a customer or partner for that matter. So the faster part, Skyline Advisor today does data refresh and analysis within 48 hours. So depending on the complexity or the size of your environment, we have customers that have over 250,000 virtual machines connected, over 6,000 hosts, 60 vCenters connected to it, just one customer. Those are the sizes. So depending on your size, it can happen within 48 hours. That's just not fast enough, right? Let's say we add a new critical CVE or VMSA today. Well, that means if that analysis just happened this morning and we added that finding right now, it's going to take another 48 hours for that finding to surface within your environment to see if you're impacted or where you're impacted by that vulnerability. It's too slow. The other thing that's too slow about it is when customers go remediate that finding, they want to go back into Skyline and say, check, I'm done. Accountability, it's been fixed, we're good, right? And,
right.
and again, you have to wait another 48 hours for that to refresh. So what we've done with Skyline, we've done a lot of engineering work, and shout out to our engineering team on Skyline. They're amazing. The whole platform, which takes in a ton of data every single second, every single hour and day, we've re-platformed that to speed it up within four hours. Okay, so now any customer within 4 hours, so it can happen within the first minute, it could happen within 3 hours and 59 minutes, is going to get a data refresh. Okay. So much quicker data analysis so that you can avoid more issues. You can have accountability about the things that you remediated, and you're reporting, because a lot of customers are using it to report up to their management of here's how proactive we're being. Here's how we're reducing the number of escalations in our environment, the risk in our environment. We need that reporting up to date. We can't wait 2 days for it to update. Okay. So that's the faster part. The smarter part is we've introduced 2 new insights. And insights are they're basically a synthesized version of what we're doing with proactive findings, right? We want to be able to synthesize all this data into a package to say, here's the priority things that you must go address. Because, eventually we're going to have over 1,000 things that Skyline checks for. How does one person that logs into Skyline understand what to prioritize across 1,000 different items if they have all of those affected in their environment? So the software needs to be very intelligent. And so we've introduced 2 new insights to make it more intelligent, smarter. One is called product end of life guidance or alerts. And this is the first UI in VMware where we're able to tell the customer, here's your products that you have deployed, and here's the phase of which support that you are in. That's very important because that is a huge vector factor in your upgrade planning, how you keep current on the VMware infrastructure, right? So we will tell you, hey, this vCenter will go end of general support in 90 days, or this vCenter is going end of technical guidance, which means you will not receive any support. If you log a ticket, no more support for you in 180 days, for example, and we'll give you a ticker for each product you have deployed. All right, so that's a very important factor when we also mash that up with our upgrade recommendations in Skyline to say you can reduce 40 findings by doing this one upgrade, and it's going to give you this much more life cycle from a supportability perspective. Okay, so you have an extra 2 years not to worry about anything, right? So these are all really big factors in reducing risk. That's the product end of life alerts and guidance there. The other one that we introduced or announced at VMworld as part of Skyline Advisor Pro is historical trends, historical insights. So you can actually go back kind of time machine and see what changes in your environment have either increased risk or decreased risk. And that actually can be correlated to future risk and reliability and security and productivity. And so you can actually report on that now. So let's say you remediated 50 objects last month. Well, you should see your affected object count go down by 50. Now, let's say you also added a new vCenter because you want to go monitor a new vCenter with Skyline. So that added another 100 objects. You will see those changes occur based on those different events. Like I mentioned, those are just a couple examples of what you'll be able to see in historical trends. Okay. The last one is for our Success 360 customers, our top tier customer success customers. They will receive what we call a proactive insights report. And again, this is part of the whole service delivery, the service wrapper, which is we have a proactive support team for Success 360 customers. That is their job to help customers prioritize their remediations, help them with their remediations, and avoid SRs and issues. Okay, so they're going to take that proactive insights report, which basically tells you, here's the low-hanging fruit, here's the harder ones to go remediate, here's how we're going to actually do it, here's the ones that are the highest priority from a severity perspective, criticality perspective, and then they walk through it with the customer.
Yeah,
so
I got to stop you for a second and go just like, because I have a thought, which is having listened to this, it sounds awesome. And on the chat, we're like, wow, this is really impressive. You've gone a long way in the last 2 years. And I could almost see needing a VCP for Skyline, right? Where I need to actually educate myself on all the things, because this is getting so robust now that it's kind of like, this could be my Roomba for my data center, right? Where it's just going and looking at things and doing it for you. But then I listened to you say about the 360, success piece of it, right? And I'm like, oh, and this is a case where if I don't want to go get my VCP in Skyline, I could actually just have VMware come in and give me some resource to be able to handle this part of my operations.
Yeah, if you want to self-serve, go for it, right? Skyline's a perfect self-serve. You never have to talk to VMware at all, right? You can do it on your own. You're going to learn a lot about your infrastructure by the issues that Skyline is surfacing and the remediation steps, right? And upgrades and configuration changes and all of that. But if you want to have a service that helps you do that, Success 360 is beautiful in that regard. Same thing with TAMs. TAMs are helping out with this all day long too, right? There's over 2,000 TAM customers out there that also are a large majority of them are using Skyline, and the TAMs are helping them remediate. So that's also another service wrapper that you'll see more involvement around Skyline with the TAM services. So that's and to your point about VCP for customers that want to self-service. Yeah, we have some plans around education and certs for Skyline, right? So if you wanted to become a pro on Skyline Advisor Pro, don't want to mix up too many pros here, right? Because you got vExpert pros as well, but you could do that. But yeah, so that's the smarter piece of it,
right?
And then the simpler piece is our UX team, which is great, user experience team. This is really the folks that are designing the UI, the look, the feel of the application. They've completely reworked and modernized the UI in Skyline Advisor Pro. So not only is there dark theme, woohoo, cha-ching, you can toggle back and forth between light and dark, but the information that is surfaced right when you log into Skyline is much more personalized to you. You can just get within the first glance, okay, what do I need to do next, right? Versus kind of searching around, right? And there's this theme in the market that dashboards are dead, right? I think ThoughtSpot has a whole campaign out there right now around dashboards are dead. And I agree with some of it, right? Because who wants to be looking at a dashboard to see, oh, now I have an issue. Let me go figure out what that issue is. Let me go figure out where that issue exists. What do I actually need to go do about it? Who's staring at a dashboard to go look at millions of objects? Right? The software needs to be able to tell you right away as soon as you log in or notify you, here's what's wrong, here's where it exists, here's what to go do about it. None of this kind of searching through. And so that's the future of modern management, in my opinion, and that's where Skyline is going with this new user experience.
That's my Roomba analogy, which is, if you look at a Roomba, because we got one fine, they were like slow in the world of acquiring new tech. But it's like, it just cleans and does its function. And the only time it talks to us is when it's stuck under a bed or it's wrapped around my antenna cord. But otherwise it does its thing, and and then it docks and it doesn't say anything. If you don't get anything, it's good. It means it got its job done. And then when it does communicate, it doesn't give me a dashboard. It texts me like, hey, I'm stuck, or this is what's going on. Come do these type of things. And they're very small lists. And as it gets more effective, it texts me less and less. Right. So exactly the way to do it.
Yeah. And so that user experience, once you get into Advisor Pro and it's released to all of our customers, you'll see that right away once you log into it. That we've done a lot of work to modernize it, to clean it up, make it simpler. And that's one of our mantras with Skyline is it should be simple. It should tell you what to do as soon as you log in. Now, the next piece, which I'm most excited about in this user-friendly space, is we finally introduced a RESTful API. We're calling it the Skyline Insights API, where you can go in and query all of the data from your account, all of the findings data, I should be very specific. So any proactive finding that's active in your account, you will be able to go query all of that and then pull it into whatever tooling and processing that you want, processes that you want as a customer or partner. So a lot of our large enterprise customers and partners have been saying, hey, I want to go automate remediations based on Skyline information. How do I go create a ticket out of it in my service management system? How do I go then use Power CLI or Salt, which we acquired, or Ansible or Chef or Puppet or any one of those automation tools to go pump this data into and then automate that remediation? Now that will be possible with our Skyline Insights API. The other thing that they can do is pump that into a communication tool like Slack, or another service management tool, which we'll show an example of, is PagerDuty or Jira, right, as a ticket. So it's very flexible, it's very powerful, and now we're kind of evolving Skyline from a only read-only intelligence service where you're getting the information, you can't do anything about it, to more of a read-write. And so that's a huge shift for us with Advisor Pro, and customers have responded really well to that, because they want to work in their own tooling, in their own way, and just get out of the way, right?
Yeah, that's actually super great because a lot of people have ticketing systems. They got workflows. They want to get at that data. They want to get at it, but a REST API allows them to do that integration into their systems and their platforms. Yeah, ticketing systems, I wish those would go away as well, but they're a fact of life still. So yeah, that makes sense that you would have that intelligence, gathering all that data and then just delivering it through REST API so that people can build custom interfaces.
Yeah, absolutely. And some customers want to put it into like a Splunk where all of their systems are reporting into Splunk, and then they have a huge kind of reporting system across all IT systems, right? So very flexible. We're going to show some really key examples that customers have been asking for on top of the Skyline Insights API, but that will be available to all customers that activate Skyline Advisor Pro. And I guess that's a good segue to say, like, okay, I'm a Skyline customer today. How do I get Skyline Advisor Pro, right? Do I have to pay for it? Do I need to upgrade to it? Do I need to migrate to it? The answer is no. This is a SaaS service. We're living in a SaaS mindset. We need to make this activation very, very quick. And so again, shout out to PM and engineering for making the what I'll call an activation from Advisor to Advisor Pro very, very simple. So here's what you'll do. It's available to all the customers that I said before that Advisor is available. So we haven't changed the availability of it at all. Okay. If you're a current Skyline Advisor customer, you will make sure all of your collectors on premise that collect all the data from your products that we support are updated to the latest version. Right now, when we release Advisor Pro here soon, that version will be 3.0. The latest version that you can download today is 2.8. So if you have auto update turned on in all of your collectors, that will happen without you even doing anything, right? It's auto update, set it and forget it, the wrong code toaster. Now, if you're manually updating your collectors, that's a 5-10 minute process. You'll pull down the new OVA, you'll update your collector to 3.0. You got to make sure all your collectors in the cloud organization are updated before the switch happens and you activate Advisor Pro. Once that happens, all your collectors are upgraded, you log back into the SaaS service and you're in the Pro experience. Nothing for you to do. So the activation is very, very easy. It takes, 5-10 minutes if you have to manually update. If you already have auto update turned on, you don't have to do anything. Okay. If you don't have Skyline Advisor today, you're just going to go to Pro. There is no more Advisor, right? So you're just going to download the new collector 3.0. You'll hook it up to your products that you want to go monitor and get proactive intelligence for, and you'll be in the Pro experience. That's it. There's none of this 3 to 4 weeks. We got to migrate you. We got to upgrade. We got to do all. Nope. All done. So that is beautiful for our customers. That's the way that we want to embrace this SaaS mindset across all of our products at VMware, right? So that was a huge thing that engineering and PM made sure was top of mind when we get Pro out there in the wild.
All right, somebody on chat jokes a little bit and says, friendly reminder that your VMware Skyline collectors listed below are currently out of date. And so there is some amount of tasks you have to do to keep all your collectors up to date so that new features behave properly, right? But to upgrade to the service, because it's a SaaS service, as long as you have collectors working, you should be ready to go.
And again, if you have auto upgrade, which is a feature that you toggle on inside the collector, you don't have to worry about any of that. Every time we do a new release of the collector, that automatically gets rolled out to you and you don't have to touch anything. Now, some customers don't want to have that turned on, the minority of customers actually, and they do manual updates. So that is something that you will have to manage if you don't want to do that automatically.
I laughed and I said, dude, auto update on collectors, turn it on. Right there, you go.
That's great. Right. We've been telling customers to kind of get ready for Pro, to turn on auto update, and they don't have to do anything. So that's the activation, the availability of Skyline Advisor Pro, and the new features, right? Faster, smarter, simpler. Any questions on that update?
First of all, it sounds like a $6 million man, entry level of the entry of the $6 million man is smarter, faster, more powerful. It sounds great. It's good. One question I have for you is in setting up Skyline, a couple of people mentioned that, oh, wow, we should go do this for our home lab. We should set this up. What is setting it up mean? It's really just getting the SaaS, getting a web page, go to the web page, get it turned on, connected to your vSphere server, do that connection, and you should be good. Make sure you have installed.
Yeah, the process for customers that have production or above support contracts is they'll download the Skyline Collector OVA. They will deploy that in their environment. They will connect their endpoints, their products that they want. So vSphere all the way through VRA, and we have VCF in there, and all the other ones that I mentioned before. And that data will be securely and automatically sent back to VMware. We'll do the analysis, and then you'll get the actual value in Skyline Advisor Pro, or now Skyline Advisor, right? So really,
that sounds really easy, by the way.
It's a 15 to 30 minute process, right?
Run it. You have to connect it back to your account. You have to tell the OVA, hey, this is my account on in support, right? That it'll do the connection up to our cloud, and then you have to connect yours to your services, and away you go. But it's an OVA. Yeah,
it's 15 to 30 minute process from a net new install. So this is not a laborious, long-standing thing that you need to worry about. Most customers do it by themselves. They don't need any help. It's all self-service. Now, for folks with home labs, that's where, really my opinion on it is the value of Skyline is in the proactive intelligence that comes through Advisor. And we have hands-on labs. We have demo accounts that you can just go into Skyline Advisor and see everything that it's going to be listing out. Now, for customers that want to tinker around with the collector install, I don't think that's the interesting part. That's just my opinion. That's a 15-minute process. You set it and forget it. That's all the on-premise stuff. Now, if you want to see stuff for your particular lab, okay, I can understand that. But right now, we don't allow that because you need to have a support contract from, and if you do have a support contract, we're not going to, it basically is the check. Hey, do you have production or above? You can install it, right? But if you don't, that's where the home lab situation won't work.
Okay, that answers that question in chat. Somebody asked, how much of Skyline comes with VMUG Advantage, and the answer would be, well, you really need a support contract, right? And so that's how that plugs in.
Yeah. Now you can use Skyline Health in the vSphere client with your home lab, and you can use Skyline Health Diagnostics if you want to go check out those parts. But Skyline Advisor will require that production or above support entitlement account to do a check and then proceed with the install.
Nice. Okay. That answers that, and that's pretty clear. So you got done with VMworld. You have 12,000 customers. What do you see going forward? What I always do this in the last 10 minutes of the podcast. Like, what makes you excited? What are you looking forward to? Where do you think you guys are going to go? I can't believe you have 12,000 customers now. That's like, I think last time you were here, maybe you had 800 customers or something like that.
I think it was around 3,000. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Still a big jump.
I know it wasn't 12,000. So, where do you see yourself going? Where do you see the product? What excites you about the product? I know AI is always one of those places where, like, the more intelligence you can bake into everything, usability, just making it work like a vacuum cleaner. Like, what excites you going into 2022?
Yeah, I really think it's, as we look at multi-cloud management and how that becomes more autonomous, and how, going back to what I said before, dashboards are dead. How does software prioritize the issues for you, right? If you look at security software, they're very concerned with this, right? Because there's tens of thousands of alerts coming out. Maybe some of those are critical. Maybe some of those are not. Maybe some of them are erroneous, right? So how does the software get really, really accurate, very deterministic? And how can it prioritize across thousands of things so that you're only looking at the top 3 or 4 things? Because if you look at customer change windows, if you look at change windows across the industry, you can do major things every 3 to 4 months, maybe 3 to 6 months, right? So big upgrades, architectural changes, right? We got to look at that. So how do we intelligently prioritize all the different issues and alerts coming out of something like Skyline? That's going to be a major area for us to use machine learning and AI to go do that. Now, the other piece is, I mentioned it before as well, is how do we integrate the cloud management experience with the supportability mission, right, across multi-cloud? And that's going to be a very interesting space in the next few years. We were talking with the analyst community before VMworld, Eric, on all of our new things that we were going to be launching, and they really look at Skyline as the missing link within cloud management, because if you look at cloud management use cases, it's really around, especially with something like VROps, right? VROps, it's really around reactive troubleshooting. Hey, VROps alerted me to some performance issue. It's already happening. Now I need to go check in there and figure out what happened, where it is, what I need to go do about it, right? That's sort of, and then there's some capacity management, there's costing and stuff like that. But the main use case is reactive troubleshooting, and it does a fantastic job of doing that, right? Across things that are even outside of the VMworld realm. I mean, VROps, you can monitor anything. But Skyline should really fill the gap of where, like, the ozone layer, right? 97% of the sun's radiation, harmful radiation, gets blocked by the ozone layer. 3% still gets through. You still got to deal with those naggy troubleshooting issues, but that's got to fill the gap. Skyline really is that ozone layer in a self-driving system that connects cloud management and the company support together in one experience. And I think that is a huge differentiator if we're going to be going into the modern world of multi-clouds. Who's managing what? Is that a VMware SRE? Is it a Dell SRE? Is that a partner managing, BCPP partner? Is that a customer managing? Who's who? What environment? Right? And all the speeds and feeds and all of that stuff. So I think that's going to be a very interesting space for us. And then around all these service wrappers, right? Success 360 and TAM, there's some really interesting use cases that we can do, melding the human touch, the employees that you trust in VMware, your TAMs, your TSCs, your SEs, to really use the data to help you move forward in your cloud journey, and be more competitive in whatever market you are placed, right, as a customer. And so I think those are like the main areas that we're super excited about. The last one I will say is, since we have 12,000 customers on a cloud service, they're testing the waters of SaaS with VMware, they're logging into cloud services platform now. We have all these services that are next to each other, right? And you can start to see this with Skyline and VROps Cloud, where there's integrated intelligent use cases to say, hey, Skyline does this much with proactive intelligence, right? VROps does this much across modern cloud management. Let's connect these two use cases together. They're next door neighbor services. So let's say you're looking at an issue in Skyline and you want to go troubleshoot that further to see all your objects across in your data center that are related to that issue. I can, in context today, click on a button, it'll launch into VROps from Skyline, into that host, into that VM, into that vCenter, and say, here's everything that you're looking at, capacity, costing, all the other issues with one click. That's a whole contextualized experience, right? And I think you're going to see more of that to bring all of these services together, right? And that's what Raghu announced, is cross-cloud services. It's all right. one thing. And data's got to glue it all together. So those are the areas that we're really, really excited about. And we just love helping customers. I mean, this service did not get to 12,000 customers without us being super keen to understand customer problems and solve big pain points for them. And they steer the ship for us, right? Yeah. Direct customer feedback. We're always listening to what customers need next. And then we go deliver that. And we follow up and we say, hey, this feature, accelerated analysis, you've been asking for faster. Now it's here. And customers see that. I mean, so much so where we have customers like Rackspace and SAP acting in our videos, right? for Skyline. And so that's huge. I mean, that's what, I'm most proud of on the team, is that customers are willing to stand up and talk to other customers about how this service is helping them in their day-to-day, right? So I'll leave you with that.
Yeah, that's exciting. I got to say that, if I have things running in AWS and I go to IBM's cloud, or I go to Azure, or I go to anyone there where I'm running VMware Cloud Foundation, which there's reasons to do this in multi-cloud now, and big vendors, big companies are looking at multi-cloud solutions, then having the ability, one, to, manage that, right, and then see what's actually happening across all of my infrastructure on the multi-clouds, that's just huge. And then having a REST API that allows me to integrate, my current processes into that, so where I can actually see what's happening in my data center, what's happening in the IBM cloud, the Azure cloud, the AWS cloud, the rack space, services. And when you have a big enterprise, you have these kind of environments, right?
Yes.
And there are reasons. So that's super cool. I'll throw one more question at you, and you might not or might have an answer to this. So when we start looking at Kubernetes, right, you're not just looking at VMs. Now you're looking at applications and things that are running in pods and so forth. Are you guys looking at some of that as you go into next year?
I'm glad you brought it up. That was the next thing I was going to mention is how does the infrastructure playing proactive intelligence role around infrastructure, VMware across multi-cloud connect with the applications, because that's what customers really care about is the apps running on top of this infrastructure and the serviceability, the performance, the SLA, all of these things. And so, today with Skyline, we have 12,000 customers. There's millions of VMs across all of our customers. We see a huge jump just on private cloud, customer managed, partner managed clouds from VMware, a huge jump in containerized VMs to the tune of growing month over month at 25%, right? That's almost cloud growth statistics, right? So we see customers, yes, they're deploying containers in public cloud, native public clouds, but they're also looking at vSphere-based environments to say, how can I leverage vSphere-based environments on-premise or in VMC to go optimize my container experience or Kubernetes experience? And so we're going to have to get involved with that. And we're just now figuring out how do we go from an infrastructure play to a connected multi-cloud infrastructure and then look into the apps. What we don't want to go is too deep into the app and then kind of get into the space of APM, the Wavefronts of the world, application observability, things like that. So we're looking at that space, but it is a very important connection to make. And we're seeing a huge growth in containers being run on vSphere environments, which is awesome to see that. Very large customers just diving into that. One of the large banks in America, 60,000 virtual machines connected to Skyline. 20,000 of those are containerized, right? Just to give you a stat of one big bank, right? So, we're seeing that. We're seeing customers respond to it, demand it, and so I think you're going to have to you'll see us play more in that space.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I can see that. Well, we're near the top of the hour, so thanks a lot, Josh, for being back on the show. For the last 5 minutes, we usually do a little VBarbecue because we are on youtube.com/VBarbecue. You can go check us out there if you want to see what we look like. We live stream, or you can just listen to the audio on obviously vmw.re/pod. But for the VBarbecue report at the end of the show here, we'll bring in Tony Foster. Tony, hey, nice to see you. Good to see you. Let's talk a little bit of barbecue. We'll hit Josh first and just say, so Josh, either what's your favorite barbecue to make? And I think you're in the Northern California area is what you said you moved here. So yep. What do you do, or what's your favorite place if you don't do any barbecue? Do you get barbecue? So we'll ask you first, then we'll swing by Tony and see what he's up to.
I mean, in the world, my favorite barbecue is Texas barbecue, and I know there's a lot of fans of or fans against. But there's a place in Austin called Salt Lick. It's beautiful. If you go to the actual main Salt Lick, you can bring your own wine and just sit out there in the fields, and it's just a whole experience. And I love their beef brisket. And so, yes, I'm sure there's probably better examples of beef brisket out there. I see in the chat here you have stuffed bell peppers. We have to have my mother-in-law on because she makes the best stuffed bell peppers in the world. And we go over there every weekend and we have some. But yeah, beef brisket is my top choice. Nice.
I have been to the Salt Lick, and it is it's a cool place. Pretty big there in Austin. It's out in the country, right? I think I went to try. Yep. So pretty venue, and the barbecue is good. I love the smoke that comes off of their big black things, and then in the pits that they have there. Pretty nice. Pretty nice.
I wonder if you ever get complacent around the smell. As the worker that's there every day, do you still have an appreciation for it, or is just your nostrils burnt out from all the smoke that you've inhaled?
I don't think you. I think you just like any smell place, you just get used to it, and then that's the end of that. You don't even smell it anymore. And
That's a shame though, right? I mean, I feel like, like every time I go into that place, I'm like, I go into heaven mode because of just the smells that are coming out of it.
I got to say that me and my wife went to Austin about 2 years ago for Tommy Berry's wedding. He's on the social team. And we went to his wedding in Austin, and because we were going to be in Austin, we organized like going to like 5 different barbecues in 4 days. Right.
Yeah.
And one of them was Salt Lick, and I went to the other ones that are big Stubbs, Mr. Stubbs. There's one there in downtown Austin, and so forth. And by the 4th or 5th one, I didn't want to smell barbecue anymore. I was just done. I didn't want to have any. I was like, no, please, not another one. But so I think you get tired of anything.
Every moderation, I guess, Eric.
Yeah, that's right. So Tony Foster, talk to us about stuffed bell peppers.
Yes. So this weekend, my wife Rebecca and I had a bunch of peppers we'd harvested from the garden right before frost came on. Lopped them off, filled them with rice and meat and all sorts of seasonings, and put them on the grill, not on direct heat, slid them off to the side of the coals, and let them sit there and go for about an hour and a half on a slow cook. And about the last 10 minutes, covered them with mozzarella cheese and pulled them off after about an hour and a half. Oh my gosh, they were awesome.
That's crazy. Was the meat that you put inside, was that raw, or did you blanch the meat before you put in the bell pepper?
It was actually raw, and the pepper acts as a cooking vessel. The rice was par cooked, so not cooked all the way, but most of the way there.
Right. Neat. So that means the juice from the raw meat, as it's cooking, it turns into good barbecue.
And the real question is, what kind of hot sauce did you put on it?
Actually, I didn't put any hot sauce on it.
Okay, you should try that next time. It's an awesome combination.
I will try that next time. Yes.
All right. Well, there you have it. 2 great barbecue stories. Josh Lory, Skyline product manager, senior director here at VMware. Thanks for coming on again. We'll try to get you on in less than 2 years next time.
Hopefully.
And everybody out there should go give Skyline a try if you haven't already, because I think it's just going to be, it's kind of like vCenter. You're going to want to have it running. Yeah, it's going to be a base thing that you want to have. So thanks a lot, Josh. Tony, thanks seeing you again. We'll be back again next week. I think we're booked all the way into December. So until then, everybody have some barbecue and have a great rest of your week.
Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.